Hey, Alli, what should you do if you're disappointed because you've sort of sat on your dreams?
Ooh, that's a good one, Shawna. So I would listen to our guest today, who is a superstar celebrity. You've probably seen her on TV. She is one of the top female athletes on American Ninja Warrior. Plus, she is a TEDx speaker and motivational speaker, and she's got some tips for us.
She has some solid gold, and I love it because she was a late bloomer, an overcomer. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski, and together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Shawna, I am so excited about our lovely guest today, who is a superstar American Ninja multi competitor. She's competed on American Ninja Warrior so many times and done so amazing. And she's got so many other things to share with us and so many things that she wants to share with women and help women. So I'm excited to welcome Sandy Zimmerman to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you here because you're embody all the things that we hope for our women in terms of living their best life, and I think that would be your hope for women. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I think I went from, I had a really rough childhood. So I've had a lot of things that I have had to work through, that I've had to heal, that I've had to undo in my life. And what was funny is that even as an adult, like I think about the Sandy before I started American Ninja Warrior, I have a picture that I actually put on my dresser and keep there. And it was the last picture that I took right before I started my journey on American Ninja Warrior. And so when I look at that picture, I think that is for me my before and after picture. Most people have these before and after pictures that are maybe some transformation in their looks, or they have a transformation in weight loss or whatever that is. But for me, I look at that picture and it looks like me, but there is not the same life and spark in her eye. And I look at the pictures now of me and I thought that is my before and after picture of this Sandy who was living a good life, but not a great life. And being able to go on American Ninja Warrior, here's why you got to put yourself out there. Here's why you have to do hard, challenging things where you don't know the outcome because you'll grow. And so that I had no idea, though. I innocently started just thinking, hey, this would be inspiring for my students to watch. It'd be a good example of health and fitness. But it has become so much more than that. And really, the best part of it is who I have become through that journey. And this courageous, confident, brave woman, and that can now go from living a good life to a great life because I have dropped so much of the baggage that I was carrying around that I didn't even know. I didn't even know was there. So that self-awareness that happens when we grow and learn and do difficult things, I'm telling you, anybody who's listening, if you want a first step, do something that makes you a little uncomfortable and you will grow tremendously.
Can you speak a little bit about your 5-minute little Sandy, big Sandy discussion with yourself you had in the parking lot?
Yeah. So when I first started American Ninja Warrior, one of my first competitions that I went to was in Boise, Idaho. So it's about a 7-hour drive from Spokane, Washington to Boise. And when I got to the gym, I sat in that parking lot in my car and I just could not get out of that car. And I'm sitting in that car and I have a little debate with myself because I have these two voices. And I think I'll probably always have these two voices. I think that is just, it's part of what I need to overcome. And, but I have this one voice who I call Little Sandy. And, she grew up poor on welfare and spent time in the foster care system. And so she is very shy, guarded, timid, and insecure. Huge fear of failure and a huge fear of looking stupid. And then I have this other voice in my head who I call Big Sandy. And that is really the woman that I have become through this journey. And she is so stinking brave. And I'm so proud of her. and she is courageous. She loves a challenge, and she cares very little now about what other people think. And so I sat in that car for over 5 minutes, and I just kept going back and forth, and these two were just battling it out. And finally, Big Sandy won. And I'd mustered up enough courage to get out of that car. And I always think back to that moment and think, whew, if I hadn't made that choice to get out of that car, I would not be who I am today. I'd be back living a good life, but not a great life, not a full life, not one without my guards up. And so that act of getting out of that car was the first little step in a series of lots of little steps that led to the woman that is sitting here today, that is finally now taking her life and going, we are going to live the life that we were meant to live. I mean, can you imagine? I know I'm a big dreamer, but can you imagine if every woman out there lived with confidence and confidently pursued their big dreams and goals? It would change the world.
Yeah, and Sandy, you just watching you because I love American Ninja Warrior. I have a ninja course in my yard, and I'm not a Sandy Zimmerman by any stretch. But watching you do the things that you do on American that I've seen you do, it's amazing that you had those voices that we all have, those two different voices, the small Sandy and the big Sandy, and just the all of us have that, but overcoming that. And how do we build? Because I'm guessing that you've built Big Sandy over time. And so how do we do that?
Yeah, it's taken a lot of time. And I do wish, I think it's kind of a cautionary tale of hopefully it doesn't take people as long as it took me to really realize that I wasn't living life to the fullest. But it also can be a tale in it's never too late. If you have lived in that place of fear and limiting yourself or worrying about what other people will think, it's never too late. It's absolutely never too late. So I guess it could be a cautionary tale in both ways. I think what really was the catalyst for me is you have to take action. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that naturally our instincts as humans is to play it safe, is to be really comfortable. And I will tell you that, I taught for 23 years and coached, and I was really good at it, but I was also very comfortable at it. And I loved it. I loved the kids. I felt like I was making a huge impact, but I just couldn't shake this voice in me saying, Sandy, that was wonderful. And you made a huge impact for all those years on a lot of lives. But now I have something else for you. I've called you to something even bigger, and you're going to even impact more lives. And I think as terrifying and scary as it was to leave the comforts of teaching, it has been the best thing. And has it been smooth sailing? Absolutely not. Have I had days where I have freaked out? Absolutely. Have I had days where I've cried? Absolutely. All of those things. But the big thing for me was, if I didn't make that leap of faith and go into speaking and leave teaching, I would have lived with regret. I would have lived with wonder. And to me, that would have been way worse than living with the uncertainty of this new career and the uncertainty of just how to kind of get it going. And so I guess in life, we either take action and we learn. And what happens too, I think, when we do things that are challenging and difficult, it puts a megaphone to all those little voices in our head where maybe we don't hear them when we're comfortable. When we're comfortable, that little voice is quiet. But when we do something difficult, when we do something hard, when we put ourselves out there, it's like those voices just go on megaphone and you hear them. But that's the only way to become aware of them. So your choice is you live comfortable and those voices stay quiet because they're like, sweet, no risk at anything. We're good. We're going to stay quiet. But the moment you go on, so like American Ninja Warrior, I fail in front of millions. The failure rate for that show is 100%. I mean, in all the years it's been on, they've only had 4 guys ever actually complete the whole thing. So the failure rate's 100%. But putting yourself out there, it has put a megaphone to all those. And I don't think I would have heard little Sandy. She's been in there this whole time. I don't think I ever would have heard her had I kept teaching, had I stayed comfortable. And so what happened is I did American Ninja Warrior. Here I have this huge fear of failure and looking stupid. So I decided I'm going to go on a show where the failure rate's 100%. And it just put a megaphone to all those voices. But here's the amazing part. When you put a megaphone to those voices, now you're more aware of it. And then what you get to do is the best part. You get to rewrite the story. You get to rewrite it. And so that's what I've done. I've spent the last 8 years on this American Ninja Warrior journey rewriting all those stories. Am I really too old to do this? Let's rewrite that, because I'm not. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to crush it. I'm going to finish the course, and I have these other big dreams and goals, and I'm going to go do those. And so I've rewritten so many of those stories that were in there that I didn't know were in there. And that's why we've got to continue to challenge ourselves. We got to continue to put ourselves out there, because as hard as it is, you want to hear those voices, because if you don't, they rule your world. They make all your decisions for you. And so when we hear them, then we have the power to rewrite them. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. And I think it will be a lifelong process. If I ever get too comfortable, then I'm going to slap myself on the back of the head, because I want to continue to learn and grow. And I think that's a lifetime of this.
So I really love your message of, rewriting the story, chasing your dreams, and you overcame some of the mindset of, fear and all that you mentioned. But there has got to be, in order to succeed in the path that you've taken, you had to do some other preparations, whether that's for American Ninja Warrior or your speaking. So can you speak a little bit about, all right, we have this big dream, we overcome the mindset, the fear, we need to take action. How did you know how to prepare for American Ninja Warrior, for your speaking career? Because that will guarantee failure if you're just like, I'm dreaming big, I am unprepared. You trained. What training took place for you to assure success?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to that. And one is baby steps. And I think so many times people think you have this big dream and goal, and you're going to take this huge, enormous leap, and you're going to get that in a day, in a week, in a month. And I really think if you want to be successful, you have to be a big picture thinker, but you act small. So you take one small step. And I think when I look at anything that I've done, getting into the speaking career, the stuff that I've done on American Ninja Warrior, for heaven's sakes, my American Ninja Warrior journey actually started on little kid monkey bars. And I barely made it from one end to the other in our backyard. And I've gone from that to historical buzzers. I do some of the hardest obstacles there are on that show, but it didn't happen overnight. And I think that's the biggest thing. I was thinking, if I had a superpower, it's just the ability to I just stick with it longer. I just stick with it longer. I'm not necessarily stronger, more talented, definitely not smarter. I actually struggled in school, but I just stick with things longer than what most people are. And so it's that daily one step. That's 1% better. Today I get a little bit better, and then I get a little bit better. And the magic part is, over time, when you stack all those together, that's when the magic happens. Are people willing to stick with it long enough to have that magical moment? And that's really the big question, is are you willing to stick with it long enough to have those magical moments in your life? And so I've applied it to all aspects of my life, but I think that one step. And then the other part is this: you have to really extend yourself a lot of patience and grace. And you really have to embrace that there's going to be failure along the way. In fact, I mean, they don't show it on TV, but I have failed way more than I've succeeded. But I've also gotten up every time. And I've always thought, well, how do I want this journey to end? And I've kept at it, and I've kept at it. And I think that's the other part of it, is that you have to really know that there's going to be some things you try and some things that you do, and you go, well, wow, that really didn't turn out how I thought it would turn out. Lesson learned. You grow from it and you move on. And so I think also the daily step, but also the extending yourself patience and grace. I don't know why, somewhere along the line, a lot of people must have fed us women this idea that we had to be perfect. And I just think, God, let's just, ladies, flush that down the drain right now. Let's just put it away. We don't. What we need to do, though, is show up. We don't have to be perfect, but we keep showing up, and we keep showing up, and it all adds up over time. And I think that's the big factor, is the time factor, is really keeping at it, but extending yourself patience and grace as you go along through that journey.
Talk to us, Sandy, about the TEDx, because that's another big thing. Like the American Ninja Warrior, there are people out there. I've had clients that tell me, I want to do this, or I've even had some. I want to do a TED talk, or I want to do a podcast. And so, what got you? How did you actually do the thing? And what are you looking forward to as far as where you want that to take you next?
Mm-hmm. Well, believe it or not, I was actually really shy and quiet as a kid. In fact, in high school, I remember Mr. Ray Villegas, one of my teachers, he came up to me, he said, Sandy, why don't you run for class president? I think he saw something in me at the time that I couldn't see. And he really wanted to try to pull out some of that leadership skills in me. And so he said, you really should run for class president. And so I thought about it, and I said, well, what's involved? What do you have to do to run for class president? He said, all you have to do is give a short, like 2-minute speech in front of the whole school. And I immediately was like, heck no. Conversation was done at that point. There was no way that I was going to get up and speak in front of people. And I didn't even go to a big school, but that was just no way. And I didn't know it at the time because I just didn't have that self-awareness. But there was a huge fear of failing and looking stupid up in front of everybody. And so I said no, and I let it hold me back. And I've spent a lot of years letting those things hold me back. And I guess now I just felt like, not that I didn't have any hesitation, even when I applied for the TEDx talk, I knew, kind of like American Ninja Warrior, tons of people are vying for those 10 little spots that they give. And I knew it would be really competitive. And there were times where I doubted, like, are you ready for that stage? All of those little things. And then I just kept coming back. It's like, if not now, when? Yeah. And if not me, then who? Yeah. I knew 100% in my gut, my intuition, God, the universe, I knew 100% that I am meant to share my story, and that my story will absolutely change lives. And I thought, could I really just sit on that, knowing that? And so despite the doubt, despite the insecurities of wondering if I was actually ready for that stage, I thought, apply, Sandy. Whatever happens, happens. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And so I applied and I made the cut somehow. And it was so funny because talk about imposter syndrome. I'm sitting in there in this meeting with the other speakers, and, they're going around and telling a little bit about themselves. And, I hear ones saying, oh, how long have you been speaking? I'm like 6 months. And, oh, I've been doing it for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So many times where I doubted whether or not that is what I should be doing, if I was ready for that. And I think what I have learned to do through this American Ninja Warrior journey is that you can't wait. You can't wait till you're ready, because if you wait till you're ready, what happens is a year passes, 5 years passes, 10 years passes, and you're still not ready, and you're still sitting right where you were. So I feel like we really have to throw that out the window as well. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to 100% feel like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this. And so I think I just applied that to the TEDx talk, is like, do I feel completely ready? No. But I do feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm going to go for it, and we'll see how it turns out. And it was such an amazing stage to get to be a part of that. Just surrounded by incredible people, passionate about impacting lives. And it was just such an incredible experience. So what I'm hoping comes of that, is that's a huge launching pad to give me a chance to get into places and share my story. And I do know this is where I'm supposed to be 100%. What I don't know is exactly the business side of it, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I do know that I'm meant to share my story and that it's going to change lives. And so I guess I'm taking those baby steps every day to make that happen.
I really love the message that I think you might have ended your TEDx talk with, is that the secret is you're never ready. And that's the thing, is that where, but the baby step that you're taking today is going to take, like when you continue to take those baby steps, it's going to
Mhm.
lead you somewhere. And so waiting till you're ready, like you said, is never going to get you anywhere, because the someday never comes. And
Yeah.
this applies to, your health, your wealth, your, like, all aspects of your life. So I think that's just such a powerful message of empowering women. I think another thing is that you had a calling. You heard, you knew what, but I think some women are kind of like, well, I'm not doing what I'm meant to do right now, but I'm not really sure what that is. So what would you suggest that women do to discover their passion?
Mhm. Yeah. I two things on that one is first, I think we really need to get to know ourselves. And what I mean by that is this. For me, there's two ways. One is in stillness and in quiet. Really get to know yourself. What are those conversations going on in your head? And are they positive? And are they accurate? Or do you need to go back and do you need to rewrite some of those? And so I think for me, it's funny because I've been on this journey with meditation this last year. You hear everyone talk about meditation. And I think, well, if that, there's so many people talking about it, then I got to try this. And so one of the things that was funny, how I envisioned meditation was, you sit with your legs crossed and your hands up in that position, and you take big, deep breaths, and there's probably some waves music crashing in the background. And that was how I envisioned meditation. And so I remember, so distinctly right here in my room, sitting in that position, thinking, I think this is what it's supposed to look like. I think this is what you're supposed to do when people describe meditation. And I sat in that position and I breathed, and it's just like, it just really didn't do it for me. And I remember having that conversation with my therapist. I said, I feel like I'm supposed to develop in this area. I want to work on meditation. I tried it. How I pictured it was supposed to look, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And she'd said, Sandy, you always talk about love being out in nature. Why don't there's not really rules to meditation. Why don't you go try to do it while you're out in meditation? And I thought, that sounds brilliant. Okay. And so what I've done is I try almost every day to get out and to get up in the mountains or get on some trail, just out in nature somehow. And in that stillness and in that quiet, just to pause and listen. What is on my heart? What is calling me? And that has been a game changer because it wasn't how I pictured meditation. And I think probably meditation is a lot like anything else. There's not a one size fits all. Exercise, there's not a one size fit all. Your diet, there's not a one size fits all. But I think there is a size that will fit you in all those areas if you experiment and you play with it and you figure out what fits you. And so I have just loved it. Sometimes it's while I'm jogging up in nature in that quietness, or I'll pause and sit on a rock or stand next to a tree and just feel that nature out there and ground myself. But that's been huge. And it wasn't how I envisioned meditation, but I think it gives us a chance to really slow down and hear those voices. And then we can embrace the ones that bring out the best in us, that bring out the confident, strong part of us. But then also the ones that are the doubting, fearful ones, we can rewrite those and challenge those ones. So I think getting to know yourself in those quiet times, some people love to journal, but I would say whatever works for people. And if you're not sure, just play with it. And then on the other end, though, I think what's really helped me is we talked about a little earlier, when you do hard, challenging things, that also puts a megaphone to all those voices. and you can see which ones are the healthy ones and which ones aren't, and we can do something about it. And so I think really getting out of our comfort zone, and that could be a million different things for people. But I think that has really helped me in shaping that ability to like hear what it is that I'm supposed to do next, and really taking the time to listen, that your gut, your intuition, God, the universe, just slow down and really try to listen and get in tune with that. And it's just like anything else, right? It takes practice and it takes time. It really, exercise, same thing. You got to start. You got to start. You start with those baby steps. And I think that's one thing really amazing about social media now. When you get those things that plug up, oh, from a year ago, from 5 years ago, or whatever, and then you look, and I'm like, wow, that's where I was at, and look at where I'm at now. But it's that compounding thing with time that you just keep putting a little work in every day.
Now, Sandy, when one of the things that you talk about, and I know that this is something that affects a lot of women, you had a tough childhood, and there's other women listening right now that also had struggles, challenges as children, and that can come into adulthood. And you even mentioned a counselor there, like a coach, kind of is the way I
Mhm,
think of that.
mhm.
Anything that you can for those people that maybe have had those challenges in childhood that are still holding them back or are still affecting them, are there any things, any tips, any thoughts, anything that you can guide us on there?
One thing that I am really passionate about as far as what has helped me grow is that I think anytime you can find someone who is even just a step ahead of you, or maybe two or three, that has been on a journey that is just a little bit further ahead. They don't have to be experts necessarily, but anytime we can guide people, and that's one thing I've been so grateful and lucky and blessed in life, is that at just the right time, I've always had a mentor come along. And maybe it was someone that was able to seek out, that I thought, okay, here's an area that I'm kind of stuck in, and I'm not sure how to grow this. And let me get a coach, let me get a mentor to do that. So, like right now, I have a guy that I've been working with as a mentor. His expertise is business. That's not mine. I taught. I've crafted my ability to share my stories that just can't, a lot of that came naturally, but it's this whole business side of it. And so you find someone that has maybe your areas that you want to grow in, your little blind spots, the things that you maybe aren't an expert at, and you can grow. And I think on both ends of that, like, it's really fun for me to like, okay, I've been on this journey of growth, and to be, even maybe I'm not an expert, but if I'm a step ahead or two and can help somebody else, pull them along, I think that's amazing. And then on the other end, finding other people that can be mentors or coaches that can kind of pull you along and help. And I think, for me, I've always thought that a better you makes a better me, and a better me makes a better you. And we all rise. We all rise when we help each other out. So I think that coaching and that mentorship is a huge part of growing. And, I found that in different coaches and mentors. I found it in my therapist. There was a lot of just baggage and scars that I didn't even know were still there, weights that I've been able to lift off of me. Like, I can physically feel it when we're in a therapy session and we've gone through and healed an old wound, because my whole childhood, it was like something bad or terrible, awful would happen, and everyone would like, hey, sweep it under the rug and press on. Let's act like it didn't happen. And here's the problem with that. It's gonna come back. It's gonna come back, and you're gonna have to deal with it at some point. So the way that I grew up was we didn't deal with it. And so here it was just bubbling under the surface. And so that's what I've spent the last 8 years going back of like, you can either heal it when it happens, or you're going to end up healing it later. But at some point, it's going to come up. And so I guess as a child, I just didn't have that guidance. I didn't know. And so now as an adult, it's like, let's go back and let's heal that crap. And it's not going to hold us back anymore. And we're going to live the life that we're meant to live, free of worry, free of, I had a lot of things that I thought that I'd been through, that I felt like, oh man, people are going to judge me. People are going to think less of me. I literally thought people would run. And I remember that being a huge fear of mine, is that if people knew I'd gone through all this abuse and this neglect, that I had family members with mental health issues, substance abuse, family members incarcerated, I really literally thought that my kids would be affected, that the parents wouldn't let their kids come over to our house and play, sleepovers, all of those things that I thought people would run. People will judge me for this. And it's honestly, here's the most amazing part about people. It has actually been the opposite. It's actually been the opposite. And so all those fears that I had that people would judge me and run have actually been the opposite. It's almost like people have more embraced me, and I've had such incredible connections with people through sharing my story, and then also getting to see them start their own journey of healing and having the courage and the bravery to start their own healing by sharing it. And so it's just one of those, I think back now and I thought, I can't believe I had all those fears around my past when it's actually been absolutely the opposite. And people are amazing, and how they just love and embrace and show empathy, as you go through this.
And coming full circle to what you said at the beginning of our talk is saying that it's never too late. So, as children or as young people and going through trauma, lots of us don't have the wherewithal to know how to deal with it or the resources at that time. But then living a life and seeing things raise their ugly head, and it's like, oh, I've got to deal with that. The fact
Mhm.
is it can be done,
Yep.
and people will be there for you, and you can get support. And sweeping it under the carpet is not the best answer, but peeking under and sweeping it out and dealing with it, bringing it to the light is liberty and freedom and happiness. And you're a testament to that.
Oh, thank you.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's been
really,
such an incredible journey. I will say though, it is hard. I mean, people think training for American Ninja Warrior is hard. Let me tell you, dealing with past trauma is harder. It is harder, but oh my gosh, it's been so amazing to just feel, I mean, to just feel like you're finally living the life that you're meant to live. I
yeah.
think, man, I just let that weigh me down for so long and let it hold me back from trying new things, from meeting new people. That's actually probably been the best part of this. It's funny because even people that knew me before my 8-year journey, they're like, you're so different. It's like just being able to go and just meet new people and not feel like I had to have these guards up and wonder, like, are they safe? Are they not safe? And to be able to get to know people and hear their story and be changed and impacted by that. But that's been one of the best things to come out of this is like, I never would have done a podcast before my journey on American Ninja Warrior. I never shared my story. I was so closed off and guarded, that things like this that just never would have happened. And honestly, I mean, I love hitting buzzers on American Ninja Warrior, and don't get me wrong, it is like so much fun to break records. But I'm really most proud of the person that I've become. And I just look at that and I think, dang, girl, you did it. You're
Mhm.
going to keep doing it. And there's still this journey of growth. And I have a lot of healing still to work with. But to be able to look at your life and go and say, God, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
That's the conversation now. Not, will people run? Will people think less of me? It's, dang, girl, I'm proud of you. That's the voice now.
And you're one of the, like, as far as American Ninja Warrior, you're one of the oldest female competitors. Not that you're old by any stretch, but in that sport, I mean, there's a lot of youngins in there competing. And so that is just a whole nother barrier. And that you're showing us and teaching us that it is never too late, as Shawna said. And that I mean, one of the highlights, and for those of you that are in our Facebook group, the Girls Talk Healthy Aging Facebook group, I will post, if I can get, maybe Sandy can help me get a clip of the crazy save that you had recent. And I don't know if, I mean, it was pretty recent. I don't know if it was, which exact season, but I know that that's been in the highlight reels a lot. But just the fact that it's inspiring to me being an athlete and being in the fitness world, seeing ladies that are doing it, even as we are not in our 20s anymore. So that's another just big thing that you're not just that you're competing and breaking all these records, but you're doing it and you're not a teenager. You're not in
Yeah.
your 20s. So wow, that's
Yeah.
huge.
It is pretty funny. I mean, I've gone against, I think the last season that we recorded that aired, they put a new twist on it where you would race side by side against someone. And it was so funny because we were back behind the course. And so they have us kind of line up. So if you're on deck, you're waiting back there to go. And so I'm waiting back there with a really younger, I think she is maybe 17. Anyways, we're back there. And I don't know how it came up, if she asked me or what, my age. And she goes, "Oh," she goes, "you're as old as my mom." I just laughed. And I mean, I just got such a kick out of that. And then we went out and raced and I won. So,
Amazing.
but you know,
Wow.
I mean, it's one of those too, when you look at that journey, that's not where I started. That's not where I started. And I think that's the part that I want people to hear, is that I started, I mean, you start just like any fitness journey. You know, you just got to start. And maybe you have stayed in somewhat good shape and you're starting from there, or maybe you have not really exercised at all your entire life. It doesn't matter either one. What matters is that you take that first step and you decide, you know what, I'm going to quit saying someday. That's the biggest killer of dreams. That word is I've seen it a million times. People say someday and then it never happens.
Yeah.
To just say, you know what, today, regardless of where I'm at, regardless of, God, have I totally neglected my health? If you have, no judgment, just start today. And you're going to see that over time, that little progress and that little progress. And that's the part where it becomes a mental game of, you can't expect, oh yeah, tomorrow I'm going to get that big goal, or next week or next month or even next year. You're in it for the long haul and the big picture. And I always have short-term goals, but really I love big picture thinking. It's like, and I think, you know, here I am, I'm 47, coming up on 48. And I honestly think, what do I want to do 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years? What do I want to be able to do? What do I want to be able to enjoy and experience still in life? And what kind of quality of life do I want to have? And so you got to start now. If I wait 30 years to start because I want to be able to do, you know, run around with my grandkids or go on trips and actually get out of the tour bus and actually see the things, I got to start now. I got to do it now. I got to be ready. You know, you hear that a lot in sports. Like, I always joke, because A&W asked me, like, how were you ready over COVID? It's like, I don't get ready. I just stay ready. I don't, and I think that's kind of my approach in life. It's like, I don't want to have something amazing present itself 10 years, 20 years from now, and me to go, oh crap, I wish I'd taken better care of my health, physically or mentally or emotionally, so I could have seized that opportunity. So I guess for me, I also am a big picture thinker. I also, you know, one of my big dreams and goals, I think, and my kids always say, why do you want to wait till you're 80? I said, I don't know. That's what's on my heart. When I'm 80, I want to go to Hawaii and I want to take surfing lessons. That's my big picture. If I'm going to have that happen, there's a lot of things I got to do today, tomorrow, and for the for the next 30 years to make that happen. But I want to be up there doing this on a surfboard in my 80s. And so I also think big picture and the adventures that I want to go on. I don't want that to limit me, man. I think people think sometimes you get to a certain age and then it's just like, you just get comfortable and you stop living. And I think, God, my best days have not even come yet. They're still out there. It's like the life that I'm living now. I think, you know, my life in my 20s was good. Life in 30s was, but man, I'm living it up. And I want to say the same thing when I get to 50s, when I get to my 60s, 70s, 80s. It's like the best is yet to come. Don't put limits on that. And I think so many times, for whatever reason, our society or maybe the people we're hanging out put these limits of like age.
Yeah.
I'm like, heck no, I'm gonna age gracefully. That's not even a word in my dictionary. Like, the best is yet to come. So stay ready. Start today if you haven't, but stay ready, because I just think there's so many incredible adventures out there for us.
Well, I mean, that was gold, solid gold right there. I mean, that's really what the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast is all about. And that's what like our wish for our listeners is. I mean, I don't know if you can top that, but if you could kind of wrap that up with a bow, what is your like wish for our listeners today to live their best life?
I think I'm going to circle, honestly, back around to take that first step. It might be scary, it might be terrifying, but I guarantee if you sit with yourself for 5 minutes and you really think, what is on my heart? What is my gut, my intuition, God, the universe telling me? that I need to do? Where is it in my life? Maybe it's something physical with your health, your wellness, your fitness. Maybe it's something spiritual. Maybe it's something with your relationships, your family. It could be about any aspect of your life. But what I would challenge people to do is, this is a super powerful exercise, and there's a lot of research behind it. But take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes a day. That's not asking too much. That's a baby step. Take 5 minutes a day to just sit and listen. What is calling? What area of my life am I feeling like there is a calling to take a first step? And then, regardless of how much it scares you, take that first step. Get a mentor, get a coach, get a buddy who is going to join you and encourage you in this journey. Get someone else that is going to help you take that first step, and then is going to help you take the second step the next day. And then you're going to see this compounding thing happen over time. And then we're going to see them in another year, and they're going to go, hey, you remember that conversation? I listened to my gut. I did the 5-minute exercise. This is where the area was telling me I took the first step, and now look at me. And now look at me. And man, wouldn't that be rewarding to have a bunch of women calling us, emailing us, getting a hold of us and saying, that day, that podcast changed everything. I took the first step. And it scared the crap out of me, but I took the step anyways. Don't we want that message a year from now?
100%. And I would just follow that up with saying, just make it small. Yep. And be kind to yourself along the way, because there's going to be bumps in the road, but keep going.
Yeah, love it.
And my wish would be, get excited about failing, because it's part of the process. So just go for it.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.